Welcome to another flipped video lesson, students. Today we're going to talk about the first big issue that occurred in the Constitutional Convention. And the two big questions that had to be answered were, where should the government get its power? And then, how should the states be represented? There were a couple plans that came up to solve these problems. The first one was called the Virginia Plan. The second one was called the New Jersey Plan. James Madison was one of the key figures in creating the Virginia Plan, and William Paterson was one of the men who helped to create the New Jersey Plan. And he was actually from, you guessed it, New Jersey. Now, the Virginia Plan was all about having a strong federal or central government. They realized that the Articles of Confederation created a weak federal government, and as a result, the country really was not able to be successful. So with a strong federal government in mind, they decided that there should be two legislative branches. One would be voted on by the people. The other one would be voted on by the first branch. Both branches would be represented based on state population. So if you had a state with a lot of people, they'd have more representatives. Smaller states would have a smaller amount of representatives. They felt that was fair. The legislative branch could make and start laws where the states were incompetent. Incompetent's not a word you want to be called. They could also void state laws that were opposite of the federal constitution. So as you can see, already based on this, the federal government would be given a lot of power over the states. The executive branch would be elected by the legislative branch. And the executive branch could execute or start laws and get taxes. Again, that was something that the previous government, under the Articles of Confederation, was not able to do. They would also then have a committee of judges that was going to be set up to look over and reject legislative laws. The executive branch would choose the people for this committee. Finally, states would be bound by oath to support this Constitution. Looking at this slide, which one of these points shows the most that this type of government would be more for the federal government and not for the states? There's a few different answers you could have thought of. If you would have thought of this point here, you probably would be correct. This one also would be correct if you thought this gave the federal government more power. Let's look at the next plan, as my notes are trying to fall off my computer. The New Jersey Plan. This one was to stop the big states from being too powerful, because this was the other fear. If the big states had all the power, the little states would be left in the dust. Now, the states would also be more independent in this plan. They decided that one legislative branch was enough. Each state would send equal representatives. It didn't matter if you were a small place like New Jersey or a bigger place like Massachusetts. And when I say small or big, I'm not referring to the size, but I'm referring to the amount of people who live in the state. The legislative branch would be able to make, change, and repeal laws. Repeal meaning to take away or bring back. They also would be able to collect taxes, but they would be based on the amount of people that lived in each state. Also, the federal government would need some sort of consent from the states before they could get the laws. So this was kind of like the Articles of Confederation again. The executive branch would be elected by the legislature, and they can use force to make states follow laws if need be. And again, states would be bound by oath to support this Constitution if it made it through. Now, there were some big problems. One big problem was the fact that the small states didn't trust the big states. They thought that these big states with more people would dominate and crush the smaller states that didn't have as many representatives in Congress. On the flip side, the bigger states felt that they needed more representatives because, well, they had more people. They deserved to have more representation. Which one of these problems or answers do you fall more on? Do you side more with the small states or more with the large states? You can find the questions for 8.5 on Edmodo. Thank you.